All right, Wes, it's 5 to 10. Are you there?
I'm here, Barry. You ready to do the interview? I just want to say, oh yeah, here, real nowhere, man. They want to bring, they want to start World War III, I think, by bringing in a bunch of Muslims.
Yeah, they do. They do indeed.
That's when they try to come up with a one world religion. But anyway, Barry. So first, let's get a little about your story, because I mean, we've talked for quite some time. You're a wonderful guy, and tell us how you got into this research.
Listen, without you're talking about an entire life. Look, what I got best known for was a pretty darn good expose of a murder of a prime minister in Israel. And I wrote a book called Who Murdered Yitzhak Rabin? And I gave the lecture in Israel, I'll bet you 300 times, mostly in Hebrew. It got around. I got on TV. I became a well-known figure.
Yeah.
That book went to #1 in Israel. It wasn't minor. Leave that. That's all the other stuff you could forget about. It led to our interview tonight. Leave that. I didn't hear that.
Oh, that was my live stream accidentally. Yeah. Okay, just keep going. I know. Did they run you out? I've heard. I remember that.
There was an accident that should have killed me. I still have one shoulder more humped than the other, and I got the message. I left in a hurry. Friends of mine had died, and I'm going to talk about the Yemenite children tonight.
Yeah.
I wasn't alone. My very close partner, Joel Boehnerman, he wrote the expose on the Bush family called Crimes of a President. He didn't live long. He died at 53. There were things that I got the hint it was time to leave. Again, that's a whole other story. It's, I had seen it, more than a few of my compatriots die young and weirdly and so forth. And I just said, enough is enough, I'm getting out. It was very, very daring back then. Now I'm sort of settled kind of in the States.
Yeah.
You were an Israeli and you got kicked out of Israel for exposing your friends. Right?
They threatened you, right?
I left.
Yeah.
They threaten a lot of people. They do war crimes, bombings, all kinds of stuff.
They could bomb the hell out of the place. Listen, if we're not on the same subject, there's no point. There really isn't a point.
What is that?
I would rather have the black one.
Yeah, Ethan, mute yourself. Barry's trying to speak here.
Oh, sorry.
Noisy.
Yeah, you got music in the background there, Ethan. You kind of... Yeah, that was Ethan. That's my friend Ethan. He kind of... There's too much music.
That happened to the call?
Oh, yeah, he real nowhere, man. Okay, cool, you're here. So they tried to kill you? What kind of accident?
Oh, let's stop this extremism. I'll tell you about something I wrote recently that's had an effect, and it's down to life, and just don't go overboard here.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody went out and shot at me, and this is silly.
I was just kind of confused. I couldn't get what you were saying. You said your arm was hurt? Or shoulder?
Leave it be. Just leave it be, all right?
I understand it's too personal.
It's not too personal. It's irrelevant right now.
Oh, I agree, because, I mean, we need to get to the topic. The Yemenite children, I mean...
That's the topic.
Yep.
All the rest, as I say, all the stuff I heard from you about bombings and exaggerated nonsense, that's not the issue. All right, let's go...
I didn't say that. That was my friend. He was just talking about what other people have experienced. Stuff.
Well, I was actually...
Nobody... Listen, enough with the bullshit, all right? You want to talk seriously, it's
Let's-
journalist to journalist, that's
Yeah.
one thing.
I understand you're a very prestigious journalist, so I mean we should talk about the Yemenite children.
I would think so. I would think
Yeah.
so.
That's good.
To be honest, I was invited on here. I just don't know what the subject's really about all the way.
Oh, the Yemenite children.
Yeah, the Yemenite children.
Right. I was just confused. That's all.
Yeah,
Let-
he's a little confused.
Just let me do the talking. I think we'll be way better off. All right. Look, after is it
What was that?
What was that?
Somebody moved their chair.
Yeah, I'm getting a drink.
Yeah.
I'll be back in a minute.
Oh, sure thing. Take your
You hear
time.
me moving stuff around and just adjusting things.
Okay. So
Now,
you're saying, Barry?
Continue.
Please continue.
all right? After the Rabin, listen, was a very, very ugly but very obvious conspiracy, and the conspirators left themselves wide open to be discovered, and I discovered them. The book made #1. It was a big deal. To this day, well, the majority of religious Israelis believe me over the government. They don't buy the lie. And frankly, why should they? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I exposed this murder the way it was supposed to be exposed. I went on TV a whole bunch of times and I got well known. And next thing I knew, I was a celebrity. I deserved to be. What the heck? That was a good piece of research. But I got a phone call one day, and it was from Rabbi Uzi Meshulam. Now, I had heard of him, but he was certainly a celebrity, but he was maligned. And he invited me over to see what he was going through. And I went over. Now, what he showed me was his apartment. He had a home in a place called Yehud. Nice home. It was shut up. I stopped counting. He asked me to count the bullet holes. I counted 60 and then I stopped. 2,000 troops, Israeli troops, and police, led by a genuine Uncle Tom of a police minister. His name was Moshe Shachal. He was Moroccan. And in theory, he should have been Meshulam's side. He sent the troops out. And, well, one of his followers was sadly dead. That's Shlomo Sulam. He was killed in the shooting. Everyone else ducked for cover and mostly survived. And the issue was Rabbi Meshulam was fighting for the rights to know what happened to the children who were, let's just say, the Israeli myth is that the Arab leaders from Iran to Morocco, everyone decided to send all the Jews to the fledgling state of Israel. There's a background story to that, and I won't dive into it. It's a long story, but nonetheless, the Iranians came. The Yemenites came. I'd say about 80,000, let's say, something like that. They didn't know a word of Hebrew. They were lost. They were in refugee camps. And their children were taken right out of the schools. And, well, they were never seen again. 4,500 of them disappeared from their families. And their families didn't know what became of them. And Uzi Meshulam he didn't forget. And he ran a campaign to get to the bottom of this. What happened to our kids? Now, I went over to his house and not only counted the bullets, he had a darn good case. He showed me pictures that were given to him, people snitches. Don't forget, the Israeli people, well, they're good guys mostly, but their leadership, the founders of the state, They're called labor Zionists. They have not been in power for as long as anyone can remember, but they ran the show back when Israel was formed, and they took the Yemenite children right from the classrooms. If an Ashkenazi kid stood up when he was asked to volunteer, just to stand up, it doesn't matter. They were forced to sit down, and the Yemenite children were taken out. And this is babies to 5, 6-year-olds disappeared. This was in the early years of the 50s. Now, Meshulam showed me his research and was astounding. The good guys in Israel brought him the photos of the Yemenite children. They were in cages. They were shipped to America. They were used. I'll tell you shortly what they were used for. But 4,500 disappeared. About 500 were legitimately. What can you say? They were adopted, and they had normal lives. One was the adopted daughter of the Attorney General, the state Attorney General, Miriam Ben-Porat. Very sophisticated lady. She had a vassal. She had a Yemenite child who was not so much a child as, look, this is an opinion, it doesn't matter. She was treated really, really not like an adopted child, but more like a vassal. Leave it at that. The point is 500 maybe got out and survived. 4,000 were taken to America. And I'll get to the next part. Uzi Meshulam asked me outright, how did I break through? How did I get my story of this utter murderous conspiracy running Israel? How did I get to the Israeli people? I did. I did it because I was a very good speaker. I had a very strong lecture, and people invited me week after week after week, sometimes twice, 3 times a week, to tell the story about who was behind the murder of Yitzhak Rabin, the prime minister. Now, I'll jump to the, oh, excuse me. Oh, there we go. I'll jump to the punchline now. The organizer of the murder was Shimon Peres. He was later prime minister of Israel, later president of Israel. This is a butcher. And turns out me and Uzi had the same butcher. Now, Meshulam didn't tell me the big question, why? Why were these children in cages? Why were they shipped to America? He didn't tell me that day. He just asked me what my secret was to get the truth out. All right. I got a phone call not a couple of weeks later from his wife. She said, Uzi's been taken to Sharon prison. He wants to meet you. It's very, very important. All right, what the heck? I went there, and he wasn't just in an ordinary cell. It was staircase after staircase after staircase till I got to the bottom of this prison. And he's in a cage, but he's got a DVD player. He invites me into his cage to tell me the why. He blasts this religious music, thinking that they're not listening to us and this music will blot us up. It probably did. He asked me to be the spokesman for his movement. He wants these children, he wants the truth out. And frankly, I said, at the beginning, why should I? I don't have enough headaches on my shoulders. I have to have another one. He said, here is why they were kidnapped. During the 50s, the head of the Israeli Atomic Energy Commission was Shimon Peres. And he was. Turns out, yes, he was. He said he cut a deal with the Americans. Way back then, they didn't know much about radiation and its effect on people. Remember, this is 1950. They dropped a bomb a couple of years before. They really didn't know the effect on people. He offered them a whole race of people to experiment on. You can have their children, in return for which Israel gets nuclear secrets. We want a bomb. Shimon Peres traded human lives to get this bomb. Now, at first I couldn't listen. I knew he murdered Rabin.
Hey guys, what's up? I'm at a bookstore right now.
Oh, okay. Can you kind of mute yourself? Barry's kind of talking. No offense, bro. He's explaining about the Yemenite children. Okay, cool. Thanks. You can keep going on, Barry.
All right. Look, it's very, very tough to understand. This is not Jewish morality, putting it mildly. This is labor Zionist morality, and it led to conspiring with the Nazis, with Adolf Eichmann. It's a horrible story of expecting the Holocaust to have some survivors who will make a labor Zionist paradise. It was a very, very sick form of Judaism, if it was Judaism. In fact, that's a separate topic, and I won't go into it. Yeah. That is, my friend Rabbi Antelman covered that one better than anyone. Yeah. That was the rise of the Sabbateanism. It's a whole awful story. Yeah. I'm going to stick with this only. Yeah. It turns out that, they didn't give a damn about Jewish lives. Didn't in Europe, and they sure didn't in Yemen. Peres wanted a bomb. He wanted nuclear secrets. He gave them a race of people to play with, and they died horrible, ghastly, awful deaths in America being experimented on. Now, look, if it was just the Yemen, it's bad enough it was the Yemenites, but something else happened. Again, in my life in Israel, people knew me. I got a phone call from somebody named David Ben Hassan. He directed a film called The Ringworm Children. And by the way, it's on the internet. Look up YouTube, The Ringworm Children. There it is for you to watch in English. Mm-hmm. What a subject. Every single Sephardic child in the 50s, every one of them were taken from the classrooms. They were taken to camps. Their heads were shaved. They were told they had ringworm, and they were going to kill the ringworm away. That was what they told them. There wasn't a ringworm amongst the scalps. They marked off the heads. They blasted these children with massive doses of gamma rays, X-rays, right through their brains, just to see what massive doses of gamma rays does to a human being. The entire Sephardic population of children, 115,000, were blasted in these experiments. Now, what happened, you can watch on the movie The Ringworm Children. 6,000 died within a year. The rest suffered terrible consequences. In the end, many survived in ways that they wouldn't have had they not been blasted with gamma rays. Every Sephardic child. Peres, our atomic energy commissioner, wanted a bomb, and he offered the Sephardic children as guinea pigs, all of them. And again, you don't believe me? You go to YouTube, look up, again, The Ringworm Children. Have some fun if you want. The Jews of Israel. If you were Sephardic, it was a nightmare. Israel was an utter, complete, total nightmare for you. Your children were disappeared. and your children were blasted with gamma rays. Now, what Uzi Meshulam asked of me in Sharon prison, please be our spokesman. This is risky. Somehow you know how to get the truth out. We want you to be our spokesman. And I agreed. That story he told me turned out to be absolutely true. But his movement was so infiltrated. He had 30 some odd members sitting in Sharon prison. One of them was, again, an Ashkenazi. His mother was the spokesman for the movement. The infiltration in Israel is devastating. And it goes, by the way, way past the ringworm children and the loss of Yemeni children. You are infiltrated, and it makes like they're your allies, but they're working against you. They do it time after time. It never ends. And, well, this stupidity, there's one thing I blame the Israeli people for, is stupidity. They let these infiltrators in time after time after time. Now, there's another movie on the internet, but I'm not sure it's in English. It's in Hebrew. It's called Hameraglim, the spies. They were the so-called allies of the settler movement, trying to prevent the, what happened in the end was the end of Jewish presence in the Gaza Strip, and taken over by Hamas, and it was taken over by the worst enemies in favor of very, very thriving and good farmers. And listen, they left without compensation. They were sent to camps. They never recovered. What's going on with the Jewish people, with the infiltration, is beyond agonizing. It happens time after time. There's no land anymore in Israel. There used to be land. We're now back to a corner. But the real problem is, I'm in Florida. For however I got here, I'm in Florida. And I wrote this article. I know when I'm being watched. My emails don't get through. My Gmails, I sent out today 100, all came back, of this article telling about my, well, call it attempted alliance with the Sephardim. It didn't work because of the infiltration and the fact that there are people look, Uzi Meshulam knew that this kid in his cell block was an infiltrator. His people didn't. The same thing when I got out, I couldn't break through. It was just the infiltrators had already infiltrated. I tried, I failed, but something weird happened about a month ago. There was a new book. Let's just say the story is out. Maybe Meshulam's grandparents didn't know Hebrew. They couldn't defend themselves. Meshulam left Sharon prison an invalid. He never opened his mouth again. That was going to be my fate in Israel. I had an accident. It was not an accident. I saw the writing on the wall. What he suffered was what I was going to suffer, and what Joel Bainerman suffered, died at 53, ridiculous, healthiest person. I'm not going to go through it. The stories are broad, but I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming. Uzi Meshulam, his movement was ruined, but it wasn't. And I got this email. What it said was, ta-da, congratulations. You brought it up first. You were the first person in English to bring it up. And it's out. There's now a new book, apparently a very influential one, about the Yemenite children. There are lawsuits by the children and grandchildren of the missing children against government officials. In short, she said, no matter this email, said, no matter what, you won. And I wrote this. I've never been stopped. Today was 100 on Gmail, gone. Netfish, that's my server in Israel. I don't think any got through them. I should be flattered. That's how I'm looking at it. I can't get this message out. I'm being stopped and I've been blocked. The one trick is I'm being bombed from Mexico, thousands and thousands of scams. Luckily, my server in Israel eventually wakes up and blocks the scamming. It's uncanny, but Gmail tells me when an email doesn't get through. None of them got through. And NetVision gives me a pretty good hint. They tell me when something doesn't get through, none. Every one of them got through, which means none got through. I can't get this message out. I can't do it. Look, I'm going to give you a little plug while I have the time. This research is it's not just from yesterday. Let me tell you this. It goes back to 95, 96, when Uzi Meshulam met me in Sharon prison. I got the whole story that the Sephardic children were guinea pigs. They were all tested on the effects of radiation through their brains so that the Atomic Energy Commissioner, Shimon Peres, could get his bomb. And turns out that's exactly what happened. The guy who murdered Rabin, who organized the murder, organized the end of these, not the end, many survived, all right. Many did, though. Many didn't. Look, my books are all available. You just go to lulu.com. That's www.lulu.com. You'll see a search box right in my last name, Chamish. Chamish. That'll get you to my books in 3 languages, no less. My website is barrychamish.com. And also, I've got I've got a lecture in English I wanted to make the rounds. It's being blocked like crazy. Nonetheless, just go to Google and write in Chamish YouTube and the word poop. P-O-O-P. That's my little joke, my in-joke for Pope. Just call it Chamish Poop YouTube, and you'll get to this lecture. And I'm telling the much, much wider and longer story than I'm doing today. That's all I can say to you. That's basically what I wrote a few weeks ago. If you write me at my email address, I guess through you, you'll get to me. I'll send it out to you.
And allow me to put your a link in the so that way the audience can read your books and maybe watch your show. I'll put a link to that too.
What link? I told you, lulu.com.
No, I know where it is. I'm just putting it in my in the video description. So
whatever you say. In short, that's what I wrote. I've got a long history, and I didn't leave Israel voluntarily. Just leave that there.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say it again. The Israeli people are the victims. Once people start to understand that they may have founded the state, but there were only 100,000, 150,000. What they brought in against their will were the remainders from the Holocaust, and one way or another, they got the Sephardi. The myth in Israel is they were expelled from the Arab lands. Crap. They were not about to create an army and a viable nation through expulsion. However it was done, the British and the French ran a lot of these places. They were forced out by their own people. It's more like it. Nonetheless, the Israel, the vast majority of these, certainly the settlers, anyone who, well, if you happen to live in the Sinai or Gaza or northern Samaria, you know what your government is doing to protect you, which is nothing. But if in the 50s, they were blasting your children with massive doses of atomic energy through their heads. And in the case of the Ammonites, they murdered 4,000 just to see the effects of radiation, just to get a bomb. It's a weird but a true and awful story. There, I guess that's it summarized.
Yeah, that's an amazing story.
Yeah, isn't it though? Get my books. Do you have my books?
I'm about to purchase your book on Sabotage Z on labor Zionism.
Sure, I'll send a copy to you. All right. Send me a check and I'll send you the books.
Yeah. I'm gonna
consider it sent. You don't have to go through Lulu. I'll send it to you.
Oh, okay.
I have a few spares.
Okay. Where should I send the check to?
My address?
Oh, okay. I'll send it to there. But anyway, Delta, what is your view on this?
Wow, I never even heard of that before today.
Yeah.
I'd heard the labor Zionists were terrible as it was. I used to be like on the left. I was like, oh, these guys must not be that. I'm like, then I'm like, first they're cowards. Now I'm like, now they're just demonic bastards.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and I'm going to say this, I was raised in a labor Zionist family. I assure you, my parents were not demons, but above them and guiding their way of thinking. Boy, these guys really were up to terrible, terrible stuff. And I'm not going to go through the Holocaust of Shabtai Tzvi. Wesley, when you get my book,
yeah,
it'll explain it. I don't want this to be true. You have to understand this. I didn't go searching this. They came to, I didn't expect Rabin to be murdered, and so obviously such a haphazard and obvious conspiracy. I mean, it was ridiculously open and blatant that it was conspiracy. It took me a year. I got the evidence. And it went to #1 in Israel. And from there, I had a very, very strange change of life. Okay. Mm-hmm. And it brought me to first Rabbi Uzi Meshulam, then David Belhassan, and then I got a story way beyond Rabin. This has been going on for a whole long time. A lot of Jews were victims of labor Zionists, but the leadership, my parents, my mother was a pioneer woman. They believed in all this. They didn't know any of this.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
All right. Well, the Jews are the good guys and they're the victims, but I blame them for one thing: their stupidity. They just, the most so-called Zionists are the settlers who were thrown out of Gaza. They were thrown out of the Sinai. They were thrown out of northern Samaria. They're about to be thrown out of the rest of Judea and Jerusalem. It's just a matter of time. And they're the most Zionists. They don't know what they're talking about. If you say religious Zionists, fine. If you specify that you have nothing to do with the monsters that founded your country, but that gets very tricky. You have to add an addendum. And then you have anti-Semites who are looking to paint the whole picture with the same brush. So if you're a Zionist, you must be one of these that, to get a bomb, experiment, use the Sephardic children as guinea pigs, meaning, of course, the Sephardim have to be inferior human beings, and who cares what happened to them, except the Ashkenazim of Europe, who are also religious largely. They were also political opponents, and there's so many awful, awful stories. Look, I'm just going to say one thing. There's a book called The Transfer Agreement. It was a deal cut with the labor Zionists and the Nazis that you send us, you ban all Jewish organizations. We're the only ones allowed, and we send your Jews from Germany to Israel to found our country. The stories are awful, truly awful.
Now, I've noticed you mentioned the Sabbateans earlier, and there was a lot of.
I'm not going into it.
Yeah,
it's too complicated, and I'm not going to do it. Just accept that labor Zionists were not religious Jews. They had their own religion, which was based against the Torah. Everything in the Torah was right in the opposite sense. And to take it to an extreme, do not murder became do murder. It's terrible. When you get the Rabbi Marvin Antelman, he phoned me, oh gosh, I'll bet you for 10 years straight every week until it finally struck home. Maybe he's got something there. And that's why my book, Shabtai Labor Zionism and the Holocaust, which I'll send to you.
Well, I send the check.
Yeah, that's a given. But you're going to like this book. There's a lot more, by the way. But this is the one you want to speak about. I don't want it. It's too long and harder.
Yeah. But from what I understand, to put it simple, they reverse everything. They invert everything.
Good becomes bad.
Yeah.
Whatever's in the Torah, you do the opposite. It becomes a nihilistic, hedonistic. Look, I'm not going into it right now. It's way, way too complicated. Yeah. And I'd have to prepare to be half intelligent to explain this. About this Fardim, I can explain, and I'm actually very, very perturbed that I can't send an email. I can't send my workout. Somebody actually, really for real, without being paranoid, is taking care to make sure that this message doesn't get around. Okay, just straightforward. I sent a lot of them out today, and they all came back mostly. I think maybe one or two got through, but everyone from Gmail, every single one was returned. And again, not to appear paranoid. That doesn't happen to other people. Gosh almighty, when I say that. Nobody else's emails get sent back to them in mass. All right, leave it be. All right. My message, no matter what, it's not mine. And I have a lot of allies out there, and it can't go on. The Jews have got to face the truth. And we've got to stand up for it. And we've got to be honest about it. Most of us, look, there hasn't been a labor government in a generation. Most of us have caught on, despise these people, want nothing to do with them. But they still ran the major establishments that still control Israel, including, of course, the banks and the media. So it's pretty hard to get around that. But the fact remains, the Jews are not the labor Zionists, and we have plenty to be proud of, and we have plenty to fight for. But we had better face the truth already, or it's going to eat us alive. It's already eaten most of Israel. Whatever's left is going down if we don't face up and accept we have to face facts. And the Sephardim are facing facts. Again, YouTube, the ringworm children have fun. And again, the Yemenites, they're suing like crazy. They're writing books now. You can't ignore this. The Jews may have been stupid back then. They didn't know the language back then. They couldn't defend themselves. Their children and grandchildren can, and we've got to face up to what we are. And now, again, this is not to join the anti-Semites who are looking for anything to make Israel seem racist or this and that. It doesn't matter. We're the victims. and we have to accept
Yeah.
not responsibility. We didn't do it. It was done to us. That includes the Holocaust in a large sense. It was exploiting it, but without diving into that side of things. But if you were Sephardic, you came to Israel from, Morocco, all the way to Iran. Your life was an utter nightmare in the 50s. You lost your children. Those who remained were blasted with gamma rays. And that was your life in your new home of Israel. And of course, you landed there on a magic carpet. The myth that has been formed is dissolving. It can't withstand it anymore.
Mm-hmm. And then
That's pretty well it.
Yeah.
Folks, my books are at lulu.com. Write in my last name, Chamish, Chamish. And you'll find I have 9 books for you, 9 of them. And they're all truthful with not a word. Literally, after all this time, not a word has been. I'm not a liar. That's what people found out. I actually have journalistic intelligence and all kinds of stuff that used to exist in journalism, which is a little iffier nowadays. But I don't lie in these books. I prove and I back prove and I back prove the back proof. And they're very, very strong books.
Mm-hmm. And Barry, I just want to say, I mean, what do you think that we in America can do to expose these people?
Nothing. Stay away from us.
No, I mean like the ones like the corrupt media in America and the corrupt elites.
Listen, you've got a sham. You've got a scam for an election. You'd be nuts to participate, have any opinion about it whatsoever. Stay away from it. Just stay away from what's happening. You're being manipulated. I'm not even sure what the purpose of this is, but stay away. Stay away from us. Stay away from your own sham of a political scene. Just stay away. That's the only. I've gone beyond the belief that there's something to be done.
Mm-hmm. So there's almost nothing that can be done.
As I said, it took me a long time, and I'm still fighting, and I'm still on the most basic stuff trying to get my message out. Why? Because the message could be very deleterious, not to Israel, but to Shimon Peres, who's still alive. He might have to stand trial for mass murder if there was an honest and true blue government in Israel. That is what would happen. But it's not going to happen. And yes, I've become very, very downhearted about the possibilities for change.
Mm-hmm. And I know how you feel. I feel like that sometimes too when I see, some of this stuff going on.
Well, luckily, the Cavaliers are beating Golden State, so it should be a good series to watch.
Yeah. But anyway, Barry, it was nice having you on.
Always my pleasure. And it will be in the mail. You'll see it very, very shortly, Excellent. Probably within a few days.
Excellent. Let me send the check first. I don't want you to just send it.
Oh, I can trust you. I'll put it in the mail. You send the check. We'll do it at the same moment.
Okay, exquisite.
I'll put in a DVD. I have a whole bunch of DVDs as well. I'll throw a few in there just for fun.
I want to see the one about the Pope. Looks really interesting. I have the other ones.
I've got one. Which one do you have?
I have the ones where you give the speech about the settlers and the Israel Rabin.
Well, they're not the same. There's one about Rabin, that's the murder, and there's one called The Dirty War Against the Settlers.
Oh, I have both of those.
I'll find you something. You'll be okay with me, okay?
Sure thing. But anyway, nice having you on. I mean, it's great.
Always my pleasure. And once again, as I said, there's nothing you can do. There's a basketball series. Watch that.
I mean, I try to be a little more optimistic, but I understand where you're coming from. I mean, it must be hard, in journalism and all.
I left my family, my kids. I left everybody. This is, you know what? I'm not going to go through this.
Yeah.
You don't understand. It's personal. I lost friends. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds really hard to talk about. I don't want to.
Well, if I had to, it would be upsetting. And I don't feel like being upset.
Yeah.
I talked about a subject that doesn't make me happy. I didn't go looking for this, my goodness. It came to me. I wrote a book and people just say this stuff, the information, everything on a lot of subjects. I didn't go searching for it. It was dropped on my doorstep. I could go on with that. I don't want to right now. It's too long a story. Just know the information I received, including on the Yemenite children from Rabbi Meshulam, who never spoke another word after he left prison, was absolutely accurate. And we touched one subject tonight. Leave it be. There's a whole lot more out there. And the story, unless the Jews understand, you gotta stop identifying yourselves as Zionists, because people mix you up with labor Zionists, and you don't want to be mixed up with them. You really don't. Find a new word for it. It's a misnomer. Just find something else to call yourself.
Do you think Meyer Kahane's ideas? What are your views on Meyer Kahane?
I knew him. I knew his son. I knew Benjamin Kahana before he was assassinated. Great assassination. Just got the front seat. The kids in the back seat. Not a bullet hit them. He was knocked off. What's to say? Benjamin was knocked off. He had a talk with me. He actually sought me out to have some words with me. Listen, I lost people all over the place, and the ones that are still living, it's under great threat. Look,
yeah,
there's a guy named Fagelin who was forced out of the Knesset and forced. His son was almost killed. He's got an ugly story. He's playing by their rules now, too. There's no alternative. If you get too close, you get, well, unfortunately, you brought up Benjamin Kahana, who died. And once again, if you get too close, it's really dangerous in Israel. Very dangerous.
Mm-hmm. But like I said earlier, it was great having you on. We hope to talk to you more.
I'm not going anywhere.
Oh, okay. Oh, you want to talk a little more about that?
No, I think I've used me up. Okay.
Yeah.
This could go, if I let myself loose some night, maybe, but it's a long, long story. I was in Israel 32 years, and Rabin was killed in 95, and my whole life changed after that. I wasn't the same idealist anymore.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, that's a good show. Do you want to continue from there, or do you want to leave? Or
not now. That's it. That's the show tonight. We're finished.
Okay. God bless you.
Alrighty, you know my number and I know your address.
Yep.
We'll be in touch.
Yep. It's great talking to you. Always great to talk with you, Barry.
I enjoyed it very much. Alrighty, so don't lose me, and I'm around.
Oh, okay.
See you later, folks.
See you.
Good night, all.
Good night. Oh, that was interesting.
Well, is the last stream